70.5 million children in Indonesia up to 2022, 10% of which suffers from malnutrition, 25% of which suffers from stunting. Now take a minute to take this in. These statistics may look small, I mean not even 50, right? But that is about 17.5 million lives, 17.5 million potentials, and 17.5 million futures irreversibly damaged. Dear people, is that the cost we're willing to pay? Let me introduce myself. My name is Habibah Nureniati from Tursinai, Malang, and let's talk about our nutrition crisis. Indonesia has an interesting and juxtaposed dilemma called the double burden of malnutrition, which is essentially when a person is malnourished but obese at the same time. And a lot of people don't understand that this is even more severe than their normal malnutrition case. Why? Well, aside from the double risk, the common question, are they eating enough, is suddenly extended to the question, are they eating the right things? Which within itself encapsulates an extensive chain of causes and factors that isn't as straightforward to deal with. Malnutrition can be caused from insufficient intake of food or digestive diseases. But for someone to be obese at the same time, it means that the food that they are consuming instead are high in sugars and fats, but not the nutrition that they actually need. And this fact is supported by the rapid changes in Indonesia's food system, where ultra cheap and severely processed food is readily available to people. Whenever I see my hometown and I pass through a kindergarten or a high school, I always think that there's a whole food festival going on the side of the road. I mean, my friend spent 20K on chilok. Do you know how much 20K is worth? It's a lot. 20K is worth everything her body does not need. For low to middle income countries such as ourselves, malnutrition begins at the earliest stages, which science identified as the first 1,000 days or 2 years old. This period is the most essential period for a child's growth and development, and undernutrition can greatly compromise their true growth, cognitively and physically, which is stunting. And this can be nurtured into chronic malnutrition. Sadly, the case is that in Indonesia there are certain cultures that influences how mothers take care of their child in this essential period. And I mean the bad ones, where instead they divert the development of positive behaviors in their kids' eating. For instance, Indonesia has this habit of easily replacing breastfeeding with formula milk, as you can see with all the formula milks brands we have in the market. And we also have this habit of easily replacing proper eating with, let's say, milk or a banana. I mean, even my mom did that. She would say something along the lines of, udah deh, kalau susah makan, minum susu aja. Like that. Alas, we can approach this solution through many dimensions. But today, I'd like to focus on the preventives. So this is where I introduce Japan to you. Japan is one of the most successful countries in overcoming its nutrition crisis dating back to World War II. So using Japan as a model, we should be asking ourselves, why has Japan succeeded? Or how? Well, the answer is shokuiku, meaning food and nutrition education. This Japanese philosophy to be conscious of good dietary choices is promoted in their society through programs in hospitals, schools, childcare programs, and even their policies. See, what's interesting is that the philosophy may be about nutrition, but how they promote it and taught it to the society entails more than just facts, but also values such as gratitude for the food that they have or for the people who deliver it. And that is why shokuiku is more than just a philosophy for Japanese people, but it's also value. And this is essentially what is the most important thing in sustaining these good habits in the long run. So let's bring it back to our country here. How would Shokoiko look like in Indonesia? I think that Shokoiko works a bit like Pancasila. It should guide us to what should be promoted in our society. So first, Shokoiko in Indonesia would mean that we have national food education in schools and through programs targeted towards mothers, whether that can be provided in hospital programs, independent programs, or through municipal clinics. It is essential that young people are educated gain nutrition education, so that we can slowly build their awareness towards their own eating habit. And same goes for mothers too, so that they understand the right kind of care to give their infants during the most essential period of their life, which we have said, the first 1,000 days or 2 years old. And of course, after that as well. Second, we need policies to limit the promotion of unhealthy foods and products to the public. I mean, you understand, right? Indonesia is a market economy. We have a lot of choices at our disposal. But it has become a norm to turn to these processed beverages and foods that we have available, even though they're not good for us. And how can I say that? Well, just visit every household in Indonesia. Most of them, I guarantee, would offer you a teh gelas or sweet tea. I mean, even to your baby. But, and lastly, we need to conduct more research on nutritional foods in Indonesia, because we're not having enough of these right now. Nutritional foods in Indonesia is still not easily associated with Indonesian food, and that is why it can be quite hard for people to accept and transition to this concept of a healthy diet or nutritional meal. To Indonesian people, a healthy food still looks like a bowl of expensive vegetables with minimal seasoning. But the fact is, it isn't. We just still haven't found the right recipes to follow that can accommodate not only Indonesian taste, but also our local ingredients regionally, as well as fulfilling our nutritional needs. Because as you know, someone from Papua would have different preferences and accessibility to goods to someone in Malang, Jakarta, Bogor, Surabaya, all of these places. And that is why interrelationships between cities and rural areas should be utilized. So, despite all this being said, we should take a moment to actually appreciate and acknowledge the progress that Indonesia has made over the years since we've come this far. So even though we still have a long way to go to rehabilitate Indonesia from being one of the largest sufferers of DBM, it isn't impossible. Because at the end, as UNICEF says it, every child has the right to survive and thrive. And if it's not us who can help, tell me who.